We need to save our youth and give them a future to look forward to versus being so nihilistic and desolate, because they have no hope. I feel so bad for the kids out here in Colorado that are even working for me on my campaign. They are so motivated to get me into office because they've lost hope in everything. They're like, why am I going to college? Why am I working this job? Well, I'm just going to go die in Iran, and I'm going to waste all my money on living in a 500 square foot studio. That's not the life that I signed up for. That's not the life we should be living.
Welcome to the Asset Mindset Podcast. My name's Daniel Fielding, and I'm your host. Today, we have a very special guest, Adam DeRito. Welcome to the show, Adam. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Thanks, Dan. It's a pleasure to be on. My name is Adam DeRito. I'm a captain in the U.S. Army Reserves. I'm a civil affairs officer. Previous to that, I was an intelligence NCO, and I was a parachute rigger for 19th Special Forces Group in the Colorado Army National Guard. Other than that, I've worked in the oil and gas industry for over 10 years now. That's where I specialize in on the civilian side. It's what I do in civil affairs as well. And on top of that, I just got sick and tired of my state that I now have lived in for 20 years after I came out here to the Air Force Academy is crumbling and going away. And how I got involved in politics a long time ago was I was a cadet at the Air Force Academy. I became an undercover informant for the Office of Special Investigations going after rapist football players. That's a whole story. You can Google it. And then eventually I took them to court because they falsified my mental health records to say I was crazy. And then, for someone who's been in the military, you know how corrupt the UCMJ is and these commanders' intents and these command-directed evaluations. So I tried to pass legislation that pretty much would stop retaliation against service members. And I figured that's a pretty simple thing to do. And then you realize how entitled these people are and how they're trying to protect the system. So I took it personally. I'm like, well, for years, I'm lobbying my congressman and going to all these meetings and even going to Mar-a-Lago several times and really getting involved in the elections. Because if you can't do it as a civilian and constituent, you got to really go to the head of the problem. And then I realized, I'm like, these people will never do anything that doesn't protect themselves. So maybe I just need to do it myself. And that's when I decided to run for Congress. I decided to run for Colorado's District 8, which is the most contentious district in the United States currently. It's what the Democrats are going to spend probably the most money on trying to flip. And I'm trying to do it in order to save the seat for the Trump administration so we can get some things done over the next 2 years. Because if we don't, we're going to lose the state of Colorado. We're going to lose all the initiatives we've been trying to push forward. I'm not saying all of them are the best, but it's better than what we've had before, especially we're the GWAT generation, right? And I don't think anyone's interested in sending our kids and grandkids to die in another war for the next 20 years. And that's why I'm deciding to run. I'm running for the people. I actually care about these people. I'm a farmer, I'm a rancher, I'm an oil and gas guy, and I'm a substitute teacher in my spare time. So I'm one of the real ones. I'm not brought up in the establishment. I'm not brought up in the political class. I'm just a blue collar guy who likes to spin wrenches and drive tractors. So
Nice. Yeah, I see you have a nice John Deere, right, with the cab?
no, I got a Mahindra. It's the Indian
You
one
got a
because
Mahindra.
yeah, those things are indestructible. You can't blow them up. After my time in Nepal, I'm like, wow, these things are really good tractors. Problem is getting parts for them now, so don't break them.
Ah, I see.
Yeah.
Is there tariffs on them?
Oh yeah, and also just because of all the shipping lanes and now the Strait of Hormuz, like it's a whole thing. But it is what it is.
Jeez. So I want to go back a little bit in time. You brought it up, your time at the Air Force Academy.
Yeah.
What was that like, trying to do the right thing and then all of a sudden having all this heat thrown at you?
I was miserable. I mean, and to be fair, this is before my brain was fully developed at 25, and I was a firefighter. I was an EMT. I was a search and rescue technician before I even went to the academy. So I had a plethora of real world adult experiences before I even became a cadet. But it was my dream school, and I wanted to be a fighter pilot. That's what I wanted to do. I got accepted to all the service academies, and I'm like, I just want to get as far away from New Jersey as possible. And I love South Park, and I'm going to go skiing every weekend and fly fighter jets. That was a lie. That didn't happen. And then when I went out there, I realized that the Air Force just wasn't for me. I ended up doing Army programs to go either airborne or air assault. And then I also did Marine Corps Officer Candidate School, and they gave me a choice. Either you go to an Army school or you can cross commission to the Marine Corps. And I decided to go do that program as well. So I think I'm one of like 5 people in my entire class that completed 2 commissioning programs at the academy. But I got tied up in some dumb stuff when I was there. My biggest claim to fame that everyone likes to talk shit about me on is I was on a dating website when I was like 20 years old. And I didn't know who this person was, and some salacious things were sent back and forth to each other. Because this is before like Facebook even existed, and we had like flip phones with like 160 text message characters, and didn't know who this person was, never met them in person. And like 3 months later, I got called into an office saying, were you aware that, with Air Force OSI, that this person was under the age of 18? I'm like, no, they said they were 19. It's right there under their like, their title and their Hotmail address. So that's how I ended up being recruited for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations as an undercover informant. Nothing happened of it. They gave me like a bunch of demerits and confinements in, cadet Harry Potter world for misuse of government network and gave me an LOR. I'm like, okay, whatever. It is what it is. And then I started going after people on most of the NCAA Division I football teams who were drugging and raping women in the Springs. And it became known as Operation Gridiron after my time there. It was a long undercover informant program. And we tried doing the right thing. There are just some people who aren't meant to be officers, and they do exist at these federal service academies. They are not properly vetting people in that time frame, and maybe even now. But unfortunately, what it comes down to is that these 3-star generals, the superintendents, most of them are football guys, and they get to go to the NCAA playoff committees when they retire and make a lot of money doing all these things. And I was the guy that was going to uproot that system. So without my knowledge, they changed my mental health records after they discharged me 30 days after graduation and pulled my commission, pulled my degree. And they said that I was crazy. So when all these kids were going up for court martials and investigations, like I think it was like 30 of them or something like that, none of them got found guilty. They all walked away. Most of them went up to serve. The 2 guys that were convicted as sex offenders ended up leaving to play for another Division I football team and playing in the NFL afterwards, because you could be a convicted sex offender and still play in the NCAA and the NFL, in case people didn't know that. So I had to make a decision, because you owe 5 years of service, after a service academy, and I completed everything, and they didn't give me my stuff. So they had this like $280,000 of debt in my credit report. I'm working in the oil field trying to make money to do all these things. And then I found a loophole before I decided to join the French Foreign Legion and disappear and change my name, because I'm like, I don't know how else I'm going to get out of this. So the Army National Guard, I was on the news about my case, and they let me come in as an E4 with a master's degree, but I had to go into special forces. That was the only choice they gave me. And they said, you have 2 choices, either parachute rigger or generator mechanic. And I'm like, well, I jumped out of planes at the Air Force Academy. How bad can rigging parachutes be? So I joined the 19th group, and I went through basic training again at 27 years old. They all thought I was CID, which was really funny, because they looked up my case. There's no way this guy's not CID. He's 10 years older than everybody else in here. But it was great. I did that whole thing and went back to 19th group for a little bit, and met with the boys, learned how to shoot, run, move, communicate, drive their trucks, get them to work, so to speak. And obviously, that. And it was an honor, absolute honor working with the Green Berets. Love that group out there. And 2 years came up, and they were just like, hey, try to go back to being an officer now. You proved your time. You proved that the Air Force Academy is wrong about everything they've said about you. So I applied to be an Apache helicopter pilot out of the 211th Attack Reconnaissance Battalion in Utah. Had a slot, getting ready to go down to Fort Rucker, go down to Fort Carson, pass all my tests. Everything's ready to go. And like, hey, man, we can't let you leave. And I'm like, why? And like, well, there's 7 major psychological conditions on your medical records for aviation. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Come to find out, in 2011, a year after I was discharged, when all those cases were going to court martial, without my knowledge as a civilian, my commander and some doctor I'd never met went into my records under a command-directed evaluation, and they changed my records to say that I was crazy, so none of the evidence that we collected as undercover informants could be used in court. And all those kids got away with it, right? So, and then I realized, I'm like, wait, isn't this illegal? Like, isn't there like HIPAA acts and all these other things? And like, no, that doesn't apply in the military. They're basically the 4th branch of government, and they just do whatever they want. So I'm like, all right, this is wrong. So I filed a lawsuit, because we had it in black and white. It was like DeRito versus this doctor and the superintendent. And then they immediately demanded attorney general protections. So the case became DeRito versus USA. And I drag them all the way through court. And the judge agrees with us. He's like, yeah, your constitutional rights were violated. But under Parker versus Levy, the military is a separate society and should be treated as such, and therefore we cannot tell the military what to do. So therefore, we're pushing it back to the executive branch for them to make a decision, like the president of the United States. And I'm like, this is pure insanity. Well, my favorite part, which is when everybody Googles me, this comes up. The defendant gets to respond first in the case. Now, the case was about them violating my mental health records and falsifying my records, right? The first thing the Air Force responds to when they look up DeRito versus USA is, DeRito is sending nudes of himself to like a 13-year-old. And I'm like, this has nothing to do with the case. And the only reason they did that was because they know forever in print, all over the internet, when people Google my name, that's the first sentence they're going to read. And they're not going to pay the $95 to read the rest of the case docket. And that's what they're going to use against me. So that's like going on like past this, the politics. That's what all these people come after me for, which obviously I have a TSSCI and I'm still in the military. So none of that was real. But we found this was really troubling. So we go back to the executive branch, we go to the president of the United States, we go to the secretary of the Air Force, we go to the secretary of defense at the time, Lloyd Austin, and we go to another Air Force Board of Corrections and Military Records. And then they agree. They're like, hey, this is wrong. There was an error or an injustice in your case. So we're going to give you all your stuff back, accept your academy degree, and you still owe us all this money, despite we're admitting that we're wrong and taking the medical records off your system. So I'm like, how the hell is this possible? I'm like, so you're admitting that I won. It gets pushed out of court back to the executive branch. I win my case. You admitted that you falsified my records, and the courts agreed, and so did the Air Force Board of Corrections and Military Records. So the only way to get it changed, Dan, I have to go to Congress. I have to go to Congress and ask them to pass a law to get the debt off my record and to get my degree back. So I start getting involved in politics. I just start showing up to my local 6:30 a.m. pancake breakfast on a Wednesday with a bunch of geriatrics playing canasta at a Denny's, trying to figure out. And then I realized these are the people that control our government, because I was never really involved in like the government before then, other than serving in the military. I didn't know how all these representatives get elected and what delegates are, or precinct committee persons or district captains. And then I realized how broken the Republican Party was in Colorado. So I start getting really heavily involved in trying to recruit candidates and support them. So I find this guy. He also was in the Guard with me. He was one of our helicopter pilots actually for 19 Group. His name is Gabe Evans. And I'm like, awesome. We got a Guard guy. And we kind of knew each other in the Guard, inadvertently, even though I was a specialist and I was jumping out of helicopters. And I'm like, hey, I told him my story. And I'm like, hey, man, if I support you and help you get elected, can you just pass the DeRito Act? Right? So we came up with this. It's the Military Mental Health Justice and Protection Act. And basically it just says it is illegal for any officer, NCO, or civilian DOD employee to falsify or modify mental health records in retaliation for reporting sexual assault or harassment. That's the law. That's the only change in the NDAA. It's not even a one-pager. It's like a half-pager. No cost bill. Cost of taxpayers, nothing. And I found out there was like hundreds of other people that were involved in this, right? So, I mean, like, that's why I started the Dark Saber podcast, Tuxton Tomahawks. So I've spoken around the country for over a decade talking about this stuff. It wasn't just me. I'm just the only idiot who decided to go take all the bullet strikes from, all the attacks, publicly on this. So it was a really important issue to me. And he agreed. So I helped him get elected, and I worked for him, not like directly, but like in terms of like doing memes and going against his opponents and all this other stuff in the district. So the guy gets elected, and I go to him, like, all right, cool, man. So I helped you get elected. So let's champion this bill. No. I'm like, all right. So what was that about? And then you start seeing all his donors. It's APAC. It's the Sugar Lobby. It's the Builders Associations. And actually, one of the Builders Association guys who donates a lot of money to him was in the Epstein files. So you're like, oh, this is all connected. Keep in mind, these are Republicans. These aren't even Democrats. Okay. So after he failed to do that. And the thing is, I rallied multiple representatives and senators in other states for this bill. Like, we had multiple people, Democrats and Republicans, ready to go. The only thing they wanted was one bill champion from the state of Colorado. So it didn't have to be Gabe Evans. It could have been Lauren Boebert, Jeff Crank, Jeff Hurd, Brittany Peterson, Joe Nagise, Diana DeGette, Jason Crow, Michael Bennett, and John Hickenlooper. And not a single person would touch it. And then you come to find out, oh, these guys are getting paid off by the Air Force Academy Board of Visitors, and no one goes against the Air Force Academy in the state of Colorado, because it's all intertwined, like it's all connected. And you don't think, like, you see all these conspiracy theories as military guys, like we Instagram flip and we go through all these things, and then you start realizing, oh shit, this stuff is real. Like, it's all connected and it's all corrupt, and we're just a bunch of peasants who don't understand the complexity of it. But I'm like Charlie Day on, like, It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia with, like, the red yarn charts across the wall, like, where's Pepe Silva? And I figured it out. Like, I figured out where the money's coming from. And as an intelligence guy, when I was overseas, you know how you find the bad guys? You follow the money. You follow the money. And every time you will find out where they are. Then I tell the ODAs and what airstrike and what drone package we're putting in, right? Every single time. Unfortunately, we can't do that in the United States. It's illegal. So I said the best way to attack these people, the best way to change this law, the best way to fight for our service members, the best way to preserve our oil and gas industry, we got to find somebody to run against Gabe Evans. And I start asking all these people, like, all right, you got more political experience than me, and you're a farmer, you're a rancher, let's go. Oh, no, they're going to come after and attack me, and they're going to destroy my family, and there's no way I could do this. And you can't get anyone with enough moral fortitude to do these things. And I was just like, well, I've been attacked by the government for the last 10 years. I'm pretty used to dealing with this crap. You know what? I'm going to go do it. So I did. They're like, there's no way you can run for office. You've never served as a mayor or a town councilman. I'm like, yeah, Donald Trump ran for president. He never held a political office before that, too. Granted, he's a billionaire and I'm not. But I did it. I just filled out the Form 1 on the FEC website. I signed up to be a congressman, and it has been one of the most intense battles that I have ever experienced in my life. I mean, next thing I know, I'm a child rapist. I am a Putin supporter. I'm a Democrat. I'm just like, dude, like my past speak. I've wrote a whole book on this. It's called The Guy in the Yellow Tie. I've been at Donald Trump's house like 5 times. I don't know who's more American than me and the men and women that I've served with over the last 10 years, but it is disgusting in my mind to see what they do to attack service members and people trying to do the right thing and change the system. And I think you're going to agree, especially after this last week's events with Iran and everything else, we are repeating the same exact cycle that we did with Iraq, that we did with Afghanistan. And these people have the, attention span of a squirrel, and we need to stop it. And it's up to people like us, the millennials and the Gen Zers right now, to stop this, to stop making the same mistakes that my parents did, right? When under the George Bush years, because the people that sent me and my friends to go die in war for 20 years are now telling me, just elect us one more time. Just elect us one. I promise it's going to be different this time. And after going to several funerals at Arlington Cemetery over the years, I just said, if not me, then who? It has to be us. And that's why I encourage not just me, but multiple other people to start taking control of your government and just run against them by force. What are you going to do? Lose? Okay. So then you just try again. You can't quit. You can't just let these people keep doing this stuff. So that's why I'm running for Congress. And that was a really long-winded answer. So
yeah, it's fine, man. I sense the passion and your heart's in the right place. And it is so true. I mean, I'm a veteran of GWAT. You're a veteran, Denny's a veteran. Most of the people on the show here are veterans. Not all, but a lot. And why? That's insanity, right? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result. Regime change. Like, I get maybe go in, kick somebody's ass, drop some bombs, don't do that shit, and then move out. Clear kind of victory. Like, hey, we did whatever, boom, we're out. But
Venezuela is a good example of that, right?
Yes, exactly. Go in,
and then they say,
no,
we're going to get the Kurds this time. I'm like, whoa, time out. If anyone knows the history of us and the Kurds, not a good idea. Not a good idea.
You might want to look back what we did when we left Iraq and what happened and how we kind of,
you guys can take over Iraq and make it your own country. The fuck you are. It's not going to work. And that's honestly the biggest danger we're experiencing right now is that, I understand hitting their critical infrastructure. And most people, this is not a war about Iran. I think people get confused about that. And maybe I'm just a nerd on this stuff. This is about cutting the head off of China before we get into a near-peer LISCO environment. And what I mean by LISCO is large-scale combat operation against China. Right? If we cut off 50% of their oil supply, we cut off their access to Venezuela, and we reduce the ability for drone production in the war in Ukraine, simultaneously by decapitating Iran, we can stop the war in Ukraine inadvertently, and we could stop China from doing something incredibly dumb by demonstrating that their technology is not as good as they think it is because they sold it to Iran and Venezuela, and we've just been circumventing it. Whoops. Yeah, our stuff's better than yours. So a lot of people are dying overseas, and it's horrific if people have never seen that full front in war. But it's going to be up to the Iranian people to decide what kind of country they want to live in. We had to do it in 1776. We had to grab our muskets and start shooting people in fields and out of trees. You guys have to do the same thing if that's what you want. Otherwise, we're going to get ground up into this, and it's going to last a very long time. And people don't know Iran's bigger than Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria combined. It's not going to be an easy conflict.
Yeah, so. And the terrain, it's not like Iraq, flat and you can see and roll through.
Fighting in the mountains of Colorado. What are you, nuts?
Yeah.
No.
And we know how much that was and how much fun that was in Afghanistan. I was in and around the mountains, and it's not easy. No. We had imagery one time, RLZ, we were like, oh, we're going to land here. It's only 400 meters to the target. Yeah, 400 meters uphill. The whole team was smoked when we got there. I'm carrying the door charge like... And I was in decent shape, but the altitude and the mountains, it takes its toll. So I want to get into right now, man, you got so much going on. What was the catalyst that finally, when you realized you had to take ownership of everything? Was it any one event, or was it this compounding of everything you just shared?
So I write about it in my book, and I remember the exact moment that it happened. It was September 10th, right? So what happened was I was on my last lobbying trip to DC for the year. And I had a meeting with the Undersecretary of the Air Force, Matt Lohmeyer, lined up. Like, we're going to get this Air Force Academy issue resolved. We're going to get this bill pushed through. I had met Pete in the past, so I'm like, all right, we're gonna use this avenue of approach. We're gonna get this done. We're gonna get this into NDA this year. I had several members of Congress. I won't mention their names, but several members of Congress lined up and ready to go. And I land at Reagan, and I open up my phone, and Charlie Kirk just got assassinated. And all the meetings got canceled. DC got shut down. Security clearances got pulled for the day out of the Pentagon. And this wonderful woman I had been working with in DC for several months, her name is Carolina Stanzik. You should definitely interview her. She is one of the only 2 people in the United States military who has 100% disability from the COVID-19 vaccine. They gave her the vaccine. She had several heart attacks and strokes, fell down the stairs, broke her back. She has a pacemaker now at 26 years old. She was a military veteran as well. Completely screwed up her body. The vaccine started attacking her myelin sheath around her spinal cord, and she's permanently disabled with a service dog now. So she has been fighting the Medical Justice Act and everything else. And so we crossed paths in Congress, and we were all pissed off. Like, Gabe Evans didn't want to sign on to the bill, right? Charlie Kirk just got assassinated. She can't get the VA to move on her bill that she's trying to pass. So we went out to dinner with one of our fellow friends in the Trump administration. I won't say his name either because they don't like when I say names. And we sat down for dinner, and we sat there and just went, the only way we're going to change is if we do it ourselves. And the Trump guy that I know turns to me and goes, Drew, you got to run for Congress. I'm like, you're out of your mind. And then Carolina's like, I'll be your campaign manager. I'm like, you're also out of your mind. And that's how it happened. So September 10th was when I decided to run for Congress. And then as pretty much I announced it, all these people were finding out in Colorado, and they were already trying to work against me. We had gone to Mike Flynn's gala that night, and there was already rumors about like the former state senator who's now running for governor was already trying to like, DeRito is all this other stuff from the Air Force Academy. Don't believe anything that he says. I'm like, I'm not even involved. Like, that's how fast information travels in the political sphere, right? Is that the second I decided to announce, they immediately pegged me as a threat. To upset their power. So we decided to announce on December 7th, the anniversary of Pearl Harbor, and just to sneak attack them on a Sunday when they least expect it because the Denver Broncos game was on and no one was paying attention. And then ever since then, it's like every morning I wake up and it's like I got to get a mace out my door and start throwing them at people because it's nonstop. And like, keep in mind, Dan, I'm a nobody. I am just a normal dude who served in the military and works a blue collar job in the oil field. That's it. But that's how afraid these people are who control the system. And they will stop at whatever it takes from people like us to take control of our government and make sure it's for the people and by the people like it was intended to.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, I've seen some stuff. I haven't been as exposed as much to you, but I've been to the White House. I've been to Congress, one of the things I did one time was when I first got out, there was a buddy of mine that was doing some stuff with like energy and whatnot. So I went to an event to support him because I was an engineer on my ODA. And he's like, hey, maybe I might have a job for you, whatever. And he's like, I'll pay for you to come. I'm like, all right, I'll go. Man, I couldn't believe the opulence and like the people coming together. All they're doing is just talking and not really creating anything.
Nope.
There was caviar, free drinks being served. I'm like, what in the world? I'm like, we're here and like, what?
And nothing's getting done.
We're here to meet. And then there was one congressman. I'm not going to mention his name like you're not mentioning names. We had a sit down meeting with him. And we're like, hey, there's this stuff going on, in the Dakotas and blah, blah, blah. As soon as we started talking, he's like, you know what? I'm going to go do something about this right now. And he just gets up and leaves the meeting. Like 2 minutes in, and I'm like, you're so full of shit. You're not going to do anything. You just said that to get out of the meeting. You didn't want to be there anymore. I'm like, these people are just, it's really sad. And I think some people go there with good intentions, and then they think, oh, I just got to play the game, or I'm out. Or like you said, don't want to take the heat.
Yeah. And for me, like, I'm used to taking the heat all the time. Dude, it's been like over a decade of me taking shots from these people. And I'm just like, and this is the thing, like, I'm also, like, I'm an unapologetic conservative Catholic. Like, so that really, my faith really, really grounds me in the decisions that I make. And I don't care what people think about me because I think most people don't understand this. Good men aren't nice. And I think that's something that people don't understand. Jesus himself never apologizes once in the entire Bible, right? Is because sometimes we have to flip those tables. They must be done. And sometimes you're going to get whipped. It has to be done. And the problem with a lot of these politicians is that they cater and they're nice to everyone for the sake of just gaining money and influence. I am not one of those guys. That's why I love Tim Burchett. I'm going to try to, if I win this election, I'm going to try to challenge him on being the poorest member of Congress. I don't want special interest money. I make enough in a salary. I'm going to sleep in my office on a decent futon. I'm in the Army. I can deal. Bro, I've dealt with worse situations. I'll be all right. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't need a $12,000 a month apartment, in DC. And I want to be like an airline pilot. I'll be there for my votes, like whatever, Monday through Thursday. And then I'm flying home like an airline pilot, Thursday through Sunday, every night to be with the people that I care about, which is, my dog, my farm, and then the people of my district. You know what I mean? And that's the problem, is that we don't have real representatives that want to represent real people. We just have people that cater to a few billionaires and millionaires who get their donations. Everything's fully funded by like 5 to 10 people, and they ignore everything for the order of staying in power. And I'm trying to do the exact opposite of that and try to serve as a member of Congress the way that it was intended to.
I love it, man. Yeah. How many of our founding fathers would look and be like, oh my God, like you were supposed to serve the country and then go back to your farm or go back to your business or whatever
the
you
whole
did.
point.
You weren't supposed to stay in Congress for 40 plus years like Schumer and others. It's like, it's incredible how far we've lost what we started from at the grassroots. And like where I came from, Boston, Massachusetts area, the Boston Tea Party,
Boston,
hey,
Yep.
against, taxes and the taxes on tea. So we go and we dump all this stuff out and like,
They got pissed over a 3% tax, and they start handing out muskets. And we're sitting here getting double taxed on our paychecks. We're like, please, Daddy, tax me more so we can start another war overseas.
Yeah. It's incredible. Like, that's what I was saying about Massachusetts. People back home, friends and family that I have, I don't really stay there much anymore because of the way it is, but I still keep in contact. And, once in a while I'll go, but they call it Taxachusetts. It's like, how did we come so far from being the Boston Tea Party and patriots to Taxachusetts? Like, they're taxed on everything. It's insane. I got an aunt and uncle that are like, oh my God, you can't believe what they're doing now. We're like barely making ends meet and they're increasing taxes on this and that. It's
because I think in my opinion, it's because Americans are inherently weak, and we become weakened as a society because most of the good men have been fighting the wars for the last 20 years. They're not running in positions of government. So the best of the worst continue to infiltrate every system and every level of government. Like, guys, it's actually not hard to go run to be your city mayor. You just have to go do it. You know what I mean? Like, and people just don't, oh man, I can't do that 6 p.m. I got to, meeting. I have to go take my kids to soccer practice, or, man, I don't want to give up my Sunday for this stuff. I want to go out in the lake and go boating and fishing. You are required to pledge your life, your livelihood, and your sacred honor for this, to preserve this Constitution. It requires sacrifice. This country and its Constitution are going to require you to sacrifice your time, money, and treasure to do these things. And if you don't, then the weakest people in our society are going to continue to fill that gap because you refuse to. So it's your fault. You have two choices. Do you want to be a resident or do you want to be a citizen? Being a resident means, you can, cook dinner, take your kids to baseball practice, hang out and bitch on the internet, do these great podcasts and complain all you want. Is that going to actually change anything? No. You have to be a citizen. You have to go, not just vote. Voting is a whole nother thing we could talk about, but you actually have to participate in your society and be an elected member, whether that's the lowest level in your county or your township or the board and planning committee, your water board, whatever. You have to do it. No one is coming to save us. Prepare to self-rescue. You have to do it yourself. And if you don't, then, like I said, the best of the worst are going to continue to run our government, and we're going to continue to keep doing these conversations over and over, Dan.
Yeah, so I guess we're at a tipping point from what I'm hearing from you. Do you think there's a chance that we can turn the ship? Because obviously you can't right a big ship like this immediately. Like, do you think we can course correct?
It requires drastic change. It requires almost revolutionary ideas, and that requires you to run for Congress or office or whatever you want, or to support those people that you really idealize with and push them to the finish line. You can't just sit the midterms out, man. I know no one votes in midterms. It's like lower than 20%, and if you do, the boomers who are retired and already have their $1 million asset house sitting on, on their land and have nothing else to do other than screw over the young people and send us to war in Iran and do all these other things for another 20 years, they got nothing to lose because they're going to die anyway, right? But if we don't do this now, like really participate in the midterms and support candidates like myself or like Brandon Herrera or any of those guys that are running, you're going to lose the next 20 years of your life. And we're going to repeat this because Donald Trump's only going to be, and I'm not saying I agree with all the decisions he makes for sure. He's made plenty of mistakes, but he's making the most changes that I've agreed with out of any president I've worked for since 2006 when I joined the military, right? And if we don't keep the majority that work with Trump and not against Trump, then nothing's going to get passed. And then it's going to turn into another 2 years of trying to impeach him, nothing getting done, that we're shutting the government down, we're increasing our debt by another $1 trillion. And it's the same circus, different monkeys, over and over again. So if you don't want to run for office, then support the guys who do and put in the groundwork. Come help me door knock, help me make phone calls. Give me $25 right now. You know what I mean? Like, you can do these things at a minimum. You have to invest your time and your money and your treasure to do these things. And if you don't, then we're going to lose it. The Democrats are putting in a lot of work right now to flip these midterms in order to make sure they stalemate to 28 and get their candidate into office and then reverse everything that we've just done. Right. And if that happens, it's your fault. It's only your fault. You have only yourself to blame. If you don't remove these politicians and put in America first conservative candidates, it's over. So it's up to you. You can support guys like me in your state, or you can just let it fall by the wayside, and then you can complain on your Instagram for another, 2-3 years until our next election cycle. It's up to you.
Yeah, which doesn't do anything and doesn't solve anything.
Nope. No, it just corrupts everybody's algorithms.
Yeah. So, hey, listeners out there right now, you need to pause, go in the description, find out where Adam has his stuff, or we'll have it there for you.
It's DeRitoForCongress.com. FOR. DeRitoForCongress.com.
Give him the $25.
Yep. Give me
Do
all
whatever you can. Support.
Yeah.
Get out there, find other people like him. Please do that, because if you care about this country and you want somebody that's a true patriot out there that's standing for principles and isn't bought by big money, which everybody, left or right, I hear people complain, big money controls, the elite control, the poor person, the average person doesn't have a say. Well, you got somebody that'll be an average person and have a say. So help empower them and share this with others that believe in the same principles, or someone that you think needs to hear it. So please do that. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Like I said, it's DeRitoForCongress.com, because like I said, ever since I announced AIPAC has given my opponent, Gabe Evans, an additional $500,000. That's how afraid they are of me. They are that afraid of upsetting the status quo that a foreign, which should be listed as a foreign lobbying group, and it's not. And it's not like, I have nothing against Israel. Israel has the right to exist. They can do whatever they want. It's their own country. But they should have to buy everything from us. This is a capitalistic country, and we shouldn't be giving everything away for free and then funding their nation's war that they've been grasping at the straws for the last 30 years, right? I mean, I don't want to send my friends. Like I said, I'm still serving the Army. I take this stuff very, very seriously when these decisions are made to send the young men and women that work with me to go so-called die for another Middle Eastern war. It didn't work for the last 20 years, and it's not going to work now. We have to come up with better solutions with better-minded people. And like I said, if they're that willing and they're that worried about me now, that should be a signal to everyone in every state with candidates like myself, these actual America First candidates. You want to put your district and your local communities first before anything else. And that's all I'm going to concentrate on, is that critical infrastructure, that bold governance, shutting down the border, getting rid of the illegals, American agriculture, American energy, fighting for our veterans, and then being transparent about all of it. Like, I have nothing to hide. My whole life is public on the internet, and I wrote a book. So go figure. I got nothing to hide, dude. Good and bad. It's all out there.
Yeah, I love it. And that's being real. And I think that's something that I see across the board. That's what people want more, because we are so sick. People, the middle of America, that's the moderate, that's been, I'll vote for this party, or now I'll vote for this party, because they're trying to pick and choose. It's not really the party. It's the big money that's behind the candidates. You got to be careful. And know who you're voting for and see where they're getting. Follow the money, like you said. I did Intel stuff too. I was doing human stuff. And a lot of it was, follow the money and see who's paying for what and try and cut the head off the snake. Yeah. That's what we did in the military. We get
100,000 people to give me $20. I mean, that changes the cards on everything. I mean, that's it. That's it. And that means you get one less Amazon order this week. I'm sorry. But if that's the minimum sacrifice you're willing to prevent our country from going to war and, having these border invasions and like all these sleeper cells that have been activated across the country. I mean, look at the terrorist attacks that are already occurring around the country that nobody's really paying attention to. That guy tried to throw another IED in the middle of a crowd in New York City, but you elected Mondani and you want to defund the police. So, you pay for what you get for. You get what you pay for, right? So I don't know what to tell you, but you don't want to see this stuff come to fruition here, because I think guys like Dan and I, who have been overseas and see how these countries have been overtaken, you don't want that stuff to come here. You don't. Yeah. It's a whole different environment.
I want to have you hit home and hit hard on anybody that's listening is like, oh, that's Colorado, I live in Florida, or it doesn't matter. Explain why Colorado is so important and your race is so important.
Yeah, so Colorado District 8 is the flip point for the House of Representatives right now in District 8. So that's why the Democrats are going to probably put $30 million into this race in order to flip that seat. Because if they gain the advantage, because right now it's split 50-50, 4-4, right? Donald Trump withdrew his support for Jeff Hurd and endorsed my good friend Hope Scheppelman because he even knows that this is bad. Now, if anyone knows Don personally, like I know some of his people, but like I don't think he knows about me yet, even though I've been to his house a few times. But it's like, hey, you need to withdraw your support for Gabe Evans because Gabe Evans has voted against you his entire time. He is one of only 4 Republicans in the entire United States Congress who voted to not criminalize the transgender surgeries of kids, and this guy claims to be a Republican. I don't understand. This guy didn't vote to expose the sexual assault slush fund in Congress. Then he voted for to support the Dignity Act, which is amnesty for illegals. I'm confused. I thought you were a Republican. Now, to be fair, he did all these votes after he was endorsed by Trump because he's trying to appeal to the people of Colorado that want to keep him in power. We can't do this, right? And he's not the only one that's like that. Look across the board. John Thune, Mike Johnson, all these rhinos, these Republicans in name only who are actively working against the Trump administration because they just have to wait him out 2 more years. And then it goes back to the good old boys club, right? So you got guys fighting for their life like me, like like a Brandon Herrera. He's the best example I give is because he just he's going to win by the skin of his teeth. But like, he's like a guy like me. He's just way more famous because he's got way more cooler guns than I do, right? It's just, you have people out there like me who are running in all states, like Tennessee, Florida, Virginia, Vermont, all these places. And if you're in those states, you have to support those candidates and push them across the finish line, right? Like I said, go door knock for them, go support them, donate money, repost their Instagram stuff. That's the best thing you could do for any candidate like me and those people. Repost our Instagram stories, get the name out there, get the website out there. Be the PSYOP that you all complain about. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, oh, everything's a PSYOP. Yes, you are correct. Everything is a PSYOP. So what you do is you PSYOP them back, right? You know what I mean? Like I said, these people literally ski in jeans. It's like a Colorado joke out here. These people are just unathletic. They're uninteresting, and they're just doing whatever they're told to behind the scenes. They're not electing real men and real women that represent most of the United States. And I think you'll probably agree. Oh, there's all these Democrats and Republicans that hate each other. I go out into the wild and talk to people and Democrats across the board. We agree on 80% of the things. All this division that's being pushed out there on social media is a mirage. It's not real. When you talk to real Americans, we all get along and we want all the same things. The problem is they don't participate in this circus. So they allow the boomers and everyone else to overtake everything. And they go, well, see, I told you that was going to happen. I'm like, but you allowed it to happen because you didn't participate. So Colorado is that tipping point. And if they gain control of the House of Representatives and cause several other midterm elections to fail across the country, all the gains we've made in the last 2 years are going to be for nothing. And we're going to go back to the same old system. And we can't afford to do that. So it's up to you as a brutal American to do the brutal things that are required to save this country. It is.
Yeah, this is probably the most important midterms
in our lifetime.
I can't think of any midterm, and there's been a lot. I'm 50, I'm not young, but I'm not super old either. I'm not a boomer. I'm still Gen X, but yeah, it's so crucial. We just started, and some people are trying to turn the ship and right the ship, but if
you got to keep going.
Yeah, if we don't keep the people in there pulling on that wheel, we're not going to turn things around, and we're just going to keep going down. And I think most Americans agree on both sides of the aisle. Quality of life for us has been going backwards.
Correct.
If you look at the median income, inflation, all the things, the debt, it's
affordability
is a huge
issue.
Yeah. And
I mean, look at Dan Bongino. I think he's a perfect example of how broken the system is. This guy was the second largest podcaster next to Joe Rogan, talking about, I'm going to expose the Epstein files. I'm putting everybody in jail. We're going to break the system. He gets in there, and it's like he's a deaf mute. It's like he's Helen Keller out there. You know what I mean? And he realized how corrupt it was. But because he didn't have the backing and support of people in Congress to get the bills passed and get things done, they are collapsing the system internally. So yeah, the walls are falling. The siege of Malta is occurring. But we have to keep enforcing people like that to stay in and keep going and not be afraid. Yeah, you might get your name trashed. Yeah, they might call you all this crazy stuff on the internet. You just have to not care. You just have to keep pushing, right? If you're doing the right moral and ethical thing and you're telling the truth, then just keep sticking to it, right? I mean, they crucified Jesus for telling the truth, and no matter what they did, they still killed him, right? And they're going to do the same to you. right? They might. They might.
Yeah.
That's how evil some of these people are in the system. But we can't stop, because if we do, we're going to be, the kids that are taking over for me when I hang up my uniform here, and who took over for you, they're going to be subjected to the same meat grinder that you and I had to experience for the last 20 years. And that's the last thing I want to do to our country. I want to be able to raise my family. It's like Dick Winters said. I think one of my favorite quotes from Band of Brothers in the book and in his personal autobiography after Band of Brothers was he promised God that if I make it through World War II, I promise I will retire on a quiet piece of land and live the rest of my life in peace. And I think that's what most of us want. We don't want to continue this anymore.
Yeah, agree wholeheartedly. I mean, I got a farm, 50 acres. I got cows, ducks, geese, bees, all that. That's what I'm trying to do with my family,
Yep.
and everybody should be able to do that and have that. But I think the big key is right now, the only way the evil can win is if good people do nothing.
Yeah,
And that's not
exactly.
anything new. We've been saying that for generations, but it is the truth. If you're a good person, have a good heart, good intentions, you got to get out there and do your part. Because if you don't, who's going to do it?
Yeah. Prepare to self-rescue. No one is coming. It's up to us.
Yeah.
Literally. It's cool meme post. Thank you telling me all these sweet pictures and all these awesome quotes you're putting up there. That's great. Now go do it. That's all I ask people is go do it. Participate in your constitutional republic, because we don't live in a democracy.
No, exactly. And it's crazy to me too. Like, people don't know our history, don't know the documents, don't know that, hey, guess what? The Senate never used to be elected by the population of people. The Senate used to be elected by the state, and the state representatives. And that's where there was the two houses. So you had the state that had some representation, and then you had the representatives, which represented the people. And they're like, oh, we can manipulate the large population. So let's, I don't know. Do your research, look at your history, and figure things out for yourself. But if you're someone that cares about America, you got to step up. You have to step up and do something and support people like Adam. Adam, I cannot thank you enough for your service, both in the military and outside into the country, because you have big cojones.
It's brutal
to do what you're doing. And God bless you. I mean, this is incredible. I wish there were more people like you that were willing to take the lashings, take the whippings, and face the monster of the political machine, because we do need more people like you.
No, I really appreciate that. Then that means a lot. And like I said, I try to encourage people to run. And I think I'm like the test subject, because there's a lot of veterans in the background that are like, yeah, if DeRito pulls us off, that gives us the go-ahead to start running for office. I've been trying to get Aaron Love from One's Ready to run for a long time now. All right. I'm like, Aaron, you talk about this shit all the time. Go run for office. He's like, oh, I got a family to take care of. I'm like, yeah, great. Now go save him. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, you're the guy. You're the dude. It's like the dude abides. It's like the Big Lebowski, right? Be the dude.
You're the dude.
Yeah, be the dude. Right? And it's just, we can do this. We can do it together. It just takes a concerted effort. If you guys are sick of the propaganda and you're sick of all the stuff going on in the country and you're sick of the affordability crisis, then we need to just change it ourselves by force. By, with, and through. We must accomplish this mission. There's no other option.
Yeah, I love it. I'm going to hit Adam up too, because he's been on the show and I know him. So I'm going to be like, hey man, you need to run, or I heard you're running.
So yeah, you better run in Nevada, Aaron.
I love it, man. So I want you to share a little bit on all the stuff you're doing. Where did you get the mindset to be able to take all this on?
Man, that's a really good question. I've never been asked that before. Honestly, I think it was growing up in New Jersey. Like I had a pretty tough growing up as a child. I grew up in a pretty poor family. My parents are great. They're amazing people, but we really struggled as kids. You know what I mean? And they always, hey, if you want a new pair of shoes, or if you want this toy, or you got to go out and work for it. So I started working when I was 12 years old, mowing lawns and just doing stuff. And I really got involved. People are going to make fun of me for this, but I really got involved in community service when I was 12, when I joined the Civil Air Patrol, right? Which is the Air Force Auxiliary for kids, but they do search and rescue stuff. And I got really involved in that. And that's what really motivated me to join the military, was constantly doing things for others, right? And whether it's going out and hiking in the woods and learning search and rescue techniques. And then when I got old enough, I joined the fire department, and then I got my EMT license, and then I became a search and rescue technician. This is all right around the age between 16 and 18 years old. right? And I'll never forget my first call ever was a decapitation head-on collision with an 18-wheeler at 17 years old, right? And you show up there and you just shove Vicks up your nose from a decapitated body that's fully eviscerated all over the car, and you're just like, "Don't be a bitch." You got to get this guy home to his family. It's you.
Mhm.
You're the volunteer firefighter, right? You're the so-called hero that you want it to be, and it's not a glamorous job. Just like being in the military, it's not a glamorous job. And I was like, well, what can I do that's even more, right? And I'm a 9/11 kid. I lost family in 9/11. One of my uncles was killed on the 92nd floor tower too. And for me, before we figured out what's really going on in 9/11 20 years later, I was like, well, this motivated me to go join the military and do more. And I figured like, hey, what better way to get out of New Jersey and go to the Air Force Academy and go fly jets and go bomb terrorists, because that's, the mindset they put you in when you're 18, 19 years old in 2006. And for me, it was just because I experienced extreme hardship financially, and just having to make your own path at a young age. It really developed that. And then all the BS that we discussed that happened at the Air Force Academy, right? It was just like, well, just don't quit. Like, yeah, I could have quit. I could have killed myself. I could have called it good. I could have just complained and whined and just disappeared into the ether. But like, I found a way to go back and serve again in the Army, and I'm still serving. And then I got direct commissioned, and now I'm back to being an officer, right? It's just, you can do whatever you want. It's just not going to be easy. And the one thing I tell people is, from all the times I did quit when I was a kid, I've learned to just never quit and never give up, because you only get one life to do anything of importance. And if that means helping your fellow community, your neighbor, and actually making a difference and making this country better and making sure that it survives for the next generation, it's on us. And I want to be part of that history, is to make sure that this country survives the next generation.
No, that's fantastic. You're doing it, brother. And the other thing I think people forget about sometimes is when you operate with truth and from your heart, you can go to bed and rest easy when you put your head on the pillow. You're not
Absolutely.
dealing with guilt. You're not like, oh, I should have stuck up for this, or oh, I could have that, or oh, I'm a sellout, or you have anxiety. When you live with truth in your heart, you can have peace. You really can. And I think that's so important.
Absolutely. I completely agree.
So, anything else you want to add for the asset mindset audience?
Honestly, what I tell people is like, I know everyone's like all disappointed and sad, and we don't know where this country's going. And oh, Trump lied, and he said no new wars and all this other stuff. Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I think it makes a lot of us mad. That's so-called not what we voted for, right? That's the phrase that's going around a lot on Twitter or X right now. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to keep complaining, or are you going to go out and do it? Be the change that you want to see in the world, right? I'm doing it. I don't know how this is going to end up. You can see how they're hardcore attacking me all over the place, and I'm always like, well, if they're attacking me, then I must be over the AAA artillery battery that's right over protecting the target. I must be doing the right thing, because if they're that afraid of me, if they're putting over $1 million into my opponent's bank account because they're that worried about me, then, and I'm not the only one out there, right? There's got to be more guys and women like me that want to serve this country. And all I'm asking you to do is, even if you don't serve in the military, step up and be this change. I can't do this myself. I mean, I'm putting myself out there and being the plate carrier, so to speak, but that plate's only going to be able to take so many hits, right? And I just need people to believe in this country. Don't give up on it. This is the best country in the world. I've traveled to plenty of third world countries where I never would want to live, despite how beautiful they may be. I would never want to live there. I salute my toilet every time I come home from overseas, because we have indoor water, and people don't understand how much of a commodity asset that is for this country. So be the change, go out and participate. If you really can't, then at least donate and support the candidates that you believe in, such as myself or anyone else in your state, and reach out to me. I'm really easy and accessible. Like, Instagram is probably the easiest way to find me. It's adam.derito2010. You can shoot me an email at adam@deritoforcongress.com. Like, I'm a very open, transparent person. That's like the fifth point of performance on my campaign, is just like absolute transparency. If you message me, you're going to get a message from me or one of my direct staffers. Because we really care. And we as Americans, as I call it, the new brutal Americans, like, we need to support each other and care about each other again. We can't keep putting each other into these boxes and isolating each other. Like, there's this, oh, there's the hardcore left and there's the hardcore right. Yeah, I got it. But at the end of the day, what about the middle 60%? Right. And that's what we really need to focus on, is taking care of each other, taking care of this country, because we can't lose it to the next generation. So,
No, absolutely. It's left, right, Republican, Democrat. We're all American. Let's
yeah,
get back to that. We're all American. I remember growing up, I didn't see there's always been political battles, but not the way it is now, not the extremes, not the emotions.
Hmm.
And people agreed on, hey, it's America. Let's all love and care for America or try and do what's right. But I grew up in the Reagan times and, that's what I remember.
Hmm.
My first president I remember is Jimmy Carter,
Hmm.
but Reagan, because when you're a kid, those 8 years, man, I was born in 75. So like, man, and those times, what I saw was the reason why the 80s were so prosperous and a great
Yeah,
time to be alive. And we
we
need
can
to
do
come
that.
together like that. And,
Yeah,
and we
we
can
can
do
do
it.
that. We can do it. We just have to work together collectively and ignore the noise and ignore the psyop, so to speak. Like, because it exists. It is. It's a real thing. So we just have to ignore the noise and push through and just do it. Just do it anyway. Forget what these people say. They don't matter. But we can replace them, and we should.
Yeah. That is the power right there is we can replace them. You know,
That's why
we
there's
can
2-year
do it.
elections.
We got to
We don't
come.
have to keep
Yes.
them there. Like,
I know. And it's our own fault. Like you said, there's
it's
people
your
in
fault.
there for 40 plus years. Why
That's your
have we
fault.
allowed that?
That's your fault.
We as the electoral group. But then again, you get people like, hey, there's voter fraud. There really is.
And there is in
Myself,
Colorado. Big deal.
somebody voted as me in 4 different elections. Like I said, I was from Massachusetts. I am in North Carolina, stationed at Fort Bragg. Have my North Carolina driver's license, living there, own a house, all the things. I get called for jury duty in Massachusetts. I'm like, what? And they're like, yeah, you got jury duty. I'm like, I'm not a resident of Massachusetts. I live in North Carolina, blah, 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 blah. And they're like, no, you're a resident. You've been voting in every election. I'm like, well, what are you talking about? Like, that's how we get the jury duty
Hmm.
people is off the registered voter list. And you voted. And I'm like, no, I haven't. And I had to like send my ID, copies of it, and show it. So when people are like, oh, voter fraud doesn't happen, no, it
It
does
does.
happen.
100%.
It 100% does. And we
That's why
do
the
need to
SAVE
do
Act, we really
something
need to
about
pass that.
that.
That
We do.
SAVE Act, it needs to get passed.
Yes.
Honestly, I think if the SAVE Act gets passed, and Trump, this is the one thing I'll agree he did. He's like, I will not pass any other bill until this is passed. He's
Yes,
going
I
to
heard
veto
that.
everything. I'm like, good. Finally, we're doing something that makes sense, because if the Voter SAVE Act is passed, I think you're going to see a significant change in a lot of elections across the country. A lot.
I hope so. And we
You know?
need that. And there's the approval rating. I forget what it was. The last poll, I think it was said 86% approval rating of Americans with the SAVE Act. You
And
should be able to show an ID,
And if
and that
Americans
was
can't agree,
across the board.
you can't rent a car unless you're 25. I don't understand the process here. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's just do the right thing, man. Be a moral, ethical person. You know what's the right thing to do, and the only reason you would oppose it is because you know it benefits the system that we've been subjected to for the last 20, 30 years that I've been alive. Like, it's the wrong thing to allow illegal people and non-citizens to vote in this country in order to destroy our country economically by taking away all our tax dollars for leering centers in Minnesota, so to speak. Right? It's right there. It's right in front of your face. You know what I mean? But I bet you if I start stealing all your money, you're going to change your mind. I mean, you just pay taxes. That's already stealing. Taxation is theft. Let me say that out loud. But you know what I mean? Like, you're already doing it. Why would you continue this corrupt system? It just stop. Just do the right thing.
Absolutely.
But we need more representatives that are willing to do the right thing. That's the problem. Like, the guy I'm running against, the guy can't vote correctly, but he claims to be a Republican. I'm like, what? Like, what is going on? That's not what we elected you to do. Stop doing that. No, I don't want. I think it should be illegal to transgender surgery kids under the age of 18. Look, if you want to make bad decisions after you're 18 years old, go for it. You can join the military. There's a great idea. You can women in our generation thought it was a good idea to get lower back tattoos, when they were 18. They fully regret that decision now, right? You can make all the bad decisions you want when you're 18 years old. But before that, learn how to be a good American, be a citizen, learn how to read, write, and do math, and make those decisions for yourself when you get older. That's it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, you're not old enough to really understand. And the other thing is if you look at a lot of people that have gone through those surgeries or had problems when they were young, they're like, I wish I didn't do it. Or the suicide rate. Yeah, exactly.
Because your neurons connect after you're 25 and realize, oh, that was stupid. Dude, look, I went to the Air Force Academy. I made my fair share of dumb mistakes, which we discussed previously. No, that wasn't smart. No, it wasn't smart to talk to somebody on the internet that you didn't know, right? Like, but I learned my lesson and I never did that again. So like,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? Like we shouldn't be allowing kids to completely mutilate themselves and change themselves permanently where they can never raise a family and have children. Because it's kind of weird. As you get older, that's kind of the thing you're kind of drawn to do in your biological creation, right? Is like I want to preserve my lineage and keep going, at least for the normal people, right? And
Yeah.
there's a few percentages on the either end. That's fine. It is what it is. Is America, do whatever you want. We live, try to do that in Kuwait or Saudi Arabia. They're going to handcuff you and throw you off a building. You know what I mean? And people don't understand that either, right? But it's just we need to save our youth and give them a future to look forward to versus being so nihilistic and desolate because they have no hope. I mean, I feel so bad for the kids out here in Colorado that are even working for me on my campaign. They are so motivated to get me into office because they've lost hope in everything. They're like, why am I going to college? Why am I working this job? Well, I'm just going to go die in Iran and I'm going to waste all my money on living in a 500 square foot studio. That's
Yeah.
not the life that I signed up for. That's not the life we should be living. And I might not be able to fix everything, and I might be dead before it all gets fixed. But if I can at least set the pathway for them, and encourage others to join me in doing those things, then at least it gives the next generation hope. If we plant those trees, it'll create shade in the next 50 to 100 years, right? So
Absolutely. Well said. Adam, I can't thank you enough for being on here. I can't thank you even more for putting yourself out there and what you're doing to serve
thank
our
you.
country and try and protect America foundationally. And I I really, my heart goes out to you. I'm proud of you. I'm grateful for you in so many ways. And I hope there's more people in the world like you. I really do, because we need them.
That means a lot to me, Dan, and I'm so honored for you to bring me on the show and give me this time to talk to everybody and encourage people to go out there and support my campaign or support other candidates' campaigns. Because, like I said, guys, we're the last line of defense. This is it. This is literally, I know, it's the most important election of our lifetime. Well, it is. Now it is. Like, and it might be even more important the next time. But, like, if we don't start keeping that ship righted the way it's turning, man, it's going to get hit by a Mark 48 torpedo and cavitate and go to the bottom of the Indian Ocean, just like that Iranian ship the other day.
And you got jokes. I love it. I
Oh,
miss the military jokes. That's why I love
I
being around
know.
military people.
Yeah.
The dark humor. It's great.
Yeah.
So all you listeners out there, you know what you need to do. You absolutely need to do the right thing. Stand up for truth, justice, and more than anything, don't forget, own your power.